about a number of issues this morning, but one thing we didn't talk about is the litany of mistruths and misrepresentations that Stephen Harper's been putting out during this campaign, and indeed for much of his term in office. Harper would have you believe that Conservatives are the only responsible stewards of the economy. Like he does on so many issues, Stephen Harper doesn't let the facts get in the way of a good myth. In this case, the facts suggest just the opposite. Fact: in just 5 years under Stephen Harper, the Conservatives turned Canada's $13 billion budgetary surplus and 10 straight years of balanced budgets into a $56 billion deficit, the largest in our history. Fact: the Conservatives under Harper took the country into a deficit before the recession began by driving spending up by 18% in their first 3 budgets. Fact: during the last election campaign, Stephen Harper repeatedly told Canadians we were not heading for a recession. And once it became apparent we were, in fact, in a recession, and that thousands of Canadians were losing their savings and pensions, our Prime Minister told us it was a good time to buy. Fact: Canada's relatively strong performance during the global recession had nothing to do with Harper's policies, but everything to do with the country's strong banking regulations put in place by a Liberal government. Fact: the last time Canada went from deficit to surplus was when Liberal Finance Minister Paul Martin did it in the 1990s. And fact: the last Conservative government to take us from deficit to surplus was led by Sir John A. Macdonald. Just because Stephen Harper and the Conservatives say the same thing over and over and over again doesn't make it so. Canadians are smarter than that. Thank you.
And Mr. Travis, your closing remarks.
I'll make the same point. The Conservatives are telling people in this election that they're strong on the economy, that they're the way forward, when their record speaks differently. The Conservatives are the ones that took a reasonable surplus and drove us back into deficit. If anything, they are intensely weak on the economy. We need to recognize this. The Liberals also want you to think that you don't have any other choice but to vote for more of the same. I'm here to tell you, you do have a choice. Jack Layton's team in this election is proposing very strong economic measures. We want to, again, I'll reiterate, cut the small business tax rate. We want to invest in our small businesses and our entrepreneurs. We want to make sure that we lock in a commitment to keep our corporate tax rate, our CIT, or our amalgamated federal and provincial CIT, lower than that of the United States federal CIT, so that we maintain our competitive edge in North America and we maintain high investment in Canada. New Democrats are committed to a federal economic policy that encourages investment, innovation, and this is done through targeted measures, not across-the-board measures like corporate tax cuts, just giving the carrot to everyone without having any sort of stick. And we want to make sure that this blunt approach of the Conservatives is reduced. We want to see the corporate tax rate raised, and again, I'll stress, it has to be competitive, though. It has to be targeted. These are incentives. We want to make sure that industry in this area is competitive. We want to invest in the knowledge-based economy and ensure that Fredericton still receives the amount of federal money that it deserves to ensure that we can move forward. You know Jack Layton's a fighter. I will stand up for this community, and thank you very much for your time today. And thank you for coming so early in the rain. I mean, it was hard to get out of bed this morning.
Agreed. Mr. Asher.
We all agree.
Well, thank you, and I too would like to thank the Chamber for hosting this panel this morning, and I'd like to congratulate and thank my fellow candidates for a great campaign thus far. This is without question one of the most important elections to face Canadians in many decades. It's about focusing on the economy, job creation, and the choice between a stable government committed to a low tax plan for jobs and growth or a high tax agenda that will stall our recovery, kill jobs, and quite frankly set you and your family back. It's a clear choice, a real choice. Canada is now emerging from a global recession with an economy that is the envy of the G8. In fact, the International Monetary Fund and the World Economic Forum has ranked Canada as one of the strongest fiscal positions in the world. We were the last country to enter the recession and the first country to come out of the recession. We have created more than 480,000 jobs since July of 2009. We have 6 straight quarters of economic growth, and we have reduced taxes for businesses of all sizes, a crucial element for a strong and sustained growth. However, we also recognize that the recovery is fragile. We just have to look at the United States and the dire economic situation that they are in, or the situation in the Middle East, or Ireland, or Portugal. situations that are all beyond our control but could possibly have a negative effect on Canada. At no time in our history is it more important to have a majority government, a government with a proven track record to manage our economy, to create jobs and lay the necessary foundation for long-term economic growth. And we'll achieve this by eliminating the deficit by 2014 without raising taxes, without reductions in transfer payments. Because our government's balanced and responsible choices, we will enter the future where horizons are unlimited for our children and our grandchildren. And as I said before, it's a clear choice, a real choice. Actually, it's your choice. I ask for your support as we take the next steps in building this great country. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Coleman.
Thank you. I just want to say a bit more about the way we interpret the world and how we come to our positions that relate to your interests. One is we don't measure progress by growth in consumption. We're looking for a measure of progress that focuses on well-being and quality of life. And so that includes more than what you think in terms of how much money we're making and how much money you're getting. So we're looking at social and environmental indicators as a genuine measure of progress. Second, we're very concerned when we see an economy that generates more costs than benefits, and you should be too. And that's the situation that we're in today. The cost of economic growth is increasingly at a level of environmental costs that simply cannot be sustained. We don't want to hear it. We don't want to respond to it. We don't want to make the personal changes because the incentives today are that it's all good and our life is good and our quality of life is improving. But the reality is, and we all know it, the indicators are showing strongly, those changes need to be made, and as responsible adults concerned about our children and future generations, we should be making those changes today. When we look at a shift in economic activity, what we're looking for is to move away from resource-intensive, wasteful economic activity. And we want to invest in the social and environmental infrastructure that really leads to sustainability for the long term. So our resource and taxes, for example, on toxic emissions and carbon emissions and so on, as I've mentioned, we would see used to cut income taxes substantially. We'd cut income and payroll taxes by $23 billion. We'd have $5 billion for income splitting for families, $1 billion in tax cuts for people living below the poverty line.
And wrapping up our closing remarks, Mr. Ness.
Come to the podium for this one.
Sure.
Thank you very much everyone for being here today. Really appreciate that. You're all business people, so I don't have any sympathy for anyone who gets up early in the morning to make $1. So real quick here, guys, my life goal was running for office. I can't explain why I had that dream as a kid, but here I am. I've now done that. So for me, it's time to move on. The next generation is your decision and everyone else's. So win, lose, or draw this election, I have led you to the water of the ability of taking your decision-making capacity back. I can't make you drink, though. If you do, however, want this change, I have done my part. You guys are all the good salespeople here. The rest of it's up to you to sell it. You see, like our Chamber of Commerce, I made a website. It's like our province. It's called www.purpleviolet.ca. It's a very beautiful flower, like everyone that has ever grown up here. I wish I could tell you that I could fill this room with my friends and my family. They're gone. Most of them have moved away. I do not fault them for making their economic decision for their family's stability. They did what they needed to do to survive. And that is what I have done. And that is what I will continue to do. And that is what you will continue to do in business, no matter who is elected. So I offer to fight here for you, your kids, and everyone that has grown up here for at least 1.5 months of downtime. If you want to solve your immigration problem, address the root cause. Your families are not having families as big as they used to. You need to fix that problem, and it is going to cost you time and money. Think independently, and I'm happy to notice that they corrected the typographical error on the agenda that I got, but I wanted to say that if you think independently, by Ness, yes, we're going to clean up this mess that we see in Parliament. I have my own economic action plan, and I have real quick time here. If we had $100 million, it's 500 jobs, 4-day work weeks, leading by example. Thank you.
Thank you, all candidates. Closing remarks, and we must definitely have time for at least one question from the floor.